Welcome to the 41st lesson of SmartKnitter Knit Instructions Level 2. In this lesson, we will explore further techniques for amending issues identified during translation. Let's look at the first example with intarsia. Upon translation, we can see a prompt warning of yarns hanging at the end of the panel. At the shoulder section, the rows are split into two to accommodate the feeder direction. After yarn out, there is no press off for the tucks. Return to SmartGraph. First, remove the bottom row of the left side intarsia to fix its row count for the correct feeder direction. Then, move the right side partial knit section down by one row to correct the feeder direction on the right as well. We can see the feeder is brought out of the panel area after knitting to the nearest edge, without extra tucks. Now the knitting sequence is correct. Let's look at another file with jacquard. At the neck bottom cast off, we want to knit a revolution of single jersey before casting off. Return to SmartGraph. Insert 4 empty rows before the neck bottom cast off section. Draw 2 rows in the body color, set them into a distinct zone, and assign a tension number. Add an empty needle stitch symbol after the short rows to correct the feeder direction. Move a section of the row beneath up to the topmost empty row to guide the feeder to the panel edge. Check the zones again before translating. Correct the zone for the empty needle stitch symbol. Translate again. Now we have added 1 revolution of single jersey to the neck bottom. Let's look at another example with polo neck style. 2 stitches should be added to be used as seam allowance for plackets during linking. This is indicated in the knit specification but cannot be translated into SmartGraph automatically. To edit this, first add an empty row at the bottom of the placket opening. Draw the transferred 2-stitch symbol to both sides as shown. Then move the left chest section outwards by 2 stitches. Do the same on the right side. The 2 additional stitches should be cast on in half gauge, knitting for better finish. Check the zone color. Translate, and now the actional stitches are knitted correctly. Move on to another example, which is knitted with a duo feeder. There is a prompt saying feeder 4 cannot be brought in for knitting. One way to correct the issue is by moving the partial knit feeder in Zone 2 color to the feeder 4 slot. Translate again, and we can see the problem is resolved. Another method is to add an empty row 1 row before the partial knit section. Translate, and we can see the left and right partial knit sections are knitted separately without issue. A third method is to edit the function line under SS, single system, mark an extra row with color 1, indicating knitting with a single system. Translate, and the knitting sequence is the same as adding an empty row, and it is correct as well. Let's move on to the last example. This is a raglan panel. Translate the original file. We can see the knitting direction is incorrect. Return to SmartGraph. The last narrowing stitches are transferred out of the knitting area. Change the last narrowing set to transfer without a fashioning mark. Translate again. We can now see the feeder is running correctly. This marks the end of this tutorial. Thank you for watching.